In the early hours of April 26, 1986, Reactor 4 at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant exploded during a late-night safety test. The blast exposed the reactor core and released radioactive material high into the atmosphere. Inside the control room, operators struggled to understand what had just happened. Initial reports described the situation as a serious industrial accident. Very few understood that the reactor itself had been destroyed. Local authorities in the nearby city of Pripyat were informed that there had been a fire. They were not told that radiation levels were already dangerously high. That morning, residents woke to a clear sky and an ordinary day. Children walked to school. Buses ran on schedule. From apartment balconies, some could see smoke rising from the plant in the distance. Radiation monitoring devices at the plant quickly exceeded their measurable limits. Some technicians assumed the equipment was malfunctioning. Admitting a full reactor explosion would have meant acknowledging a catastrophic design failure. The Soviet nuclear industry had long been presented as advanced and secure. A public nuclear disaster would contradict that image. Information moved upward through layers of administration toward Moscow. At each level, officials hesitated to report the worst-case scenario. The Soviet system was built on control of information. Releasing incomplete or alarming news without authorization carried risk. So decisions were delayed. Meanwhile, radioactive particles drifted beyond Soviet borders. On April 28, a nuclear power station in Sweden detected elevated radiation levels. At first, Swedish officials suspected a leak at their own facility. When no internal problem was found, the source was traced eastward. International attention quickly turned toward the Soviet Union. Only then did Soviet state media issue a brief announcement. The statement acknowledged an accident at Chernobyl. It did not describe the scale of the explosion. It did not mention a destroyed reactor core. In Pripyat, evacuation began nearly 36 hours after the blast. Buses arrived quietly on April 27. Residents were told the evacuation would be temporary. They were instructed to bring only essential items. Most believed they would return within days. Behind closed doors, internal reports painted a far more severe picture. Engineers confirmed that the reactor was completely exposed. Radiation levels near the site were life-threatening. Emergency crews were already suffering from acute radiation sickness. Yet public communication remained limited. Authorities feared widespread panic. They also feared damage to the state's international standing. The Soviet Union was engaged in a global political struggle during the Cold War. Admitting a nuclear catastrophe risked weakening its credibility. Secrecy had long been part of the system's structure. Chernobyl tested that structure under extreme pressure. As more details emerged through foreign monitoring stations and satellite imagery, the narrative became harder to control. Citizens began to question the delay in evacuation. Questions also arose about reactor design and safety procedures. Chernobyl was not only an engineering disaster. It exposed how information could be restrained even in a crisis. The effort to contain the story lasted days. The loss of public trust lasted much longer. In time, the disaster would influence political reforms within the Soviet Union. Openness, once resisted, became harder to avoid. The explosion damaged a reactor core. The silence that followed revealed deeper fractures. Chernobyl showed that radiation spreads without regard for borders. And that truth, delayed, carries consequences of its own.